In 2018, I began showering in a very different way than I have ever before in my life. And if you implement what I did in the shower, not only will this help you accomplish all your goals and your resolutions in 2018, but it will help you accomplish everything you set your mind to for the rest of your life. Now, I know that sounds like an audacious statement because what could me taking a shower possibly have to do with accomplishing goals and resolutions? It all relates to one word. It's one word starting with an M. And I'm going to tell you what that word is here shortly. But I'm going to pause because I know some of you are dirty-minded. I said taking a shower, word starting with M. I kind of know where your mind's going, but it's not what you think. It's a very different word. This same word helped me run 11 miles up this hill earlier today, and also helped me run a marathon up this hill just 6 days ago. Which is why if you look at me right now, I'm dressed like this. You can see some white powder coming out of my shirt. That's a result of salt coming out of my skin because the run up the hill is pretty brutal. It's like 6 miles straight up. One of my 2018 goals is to run a 50-miler and before the end of the year to run a 100-miler. And it is the same word that I used in my showering that is also helping me run up mountains and accomplish all my fitness and my business goals. So before I tell you what this word is, let's actually look at what's happening now in 2018. Statistically speaking, I've heard that 92% of people are failing at their resolutions by this point. Now, I don't know where those numbers come from, but realistically, I would guess it's even more than that. Most people set their resolutions either New Year's Eve or first of the year, and they think, okay, I'm going to be charged up. This is the year that everything's going to change. But why would it change? When that ball drops in Times Square, when the clock hits midnight, what's actually changed? Have you become a different person? Think about it. What has actually changed in this period of time? Between December 31st and January 1st, what has actually changed? It's just a date. It's a date change just like any other throughout the rest of the year. But yet, we all come into the start of this year, and every year ultimately, every January 1st, and we think that something's magically going to shift. But it doesn't. Which is why, by the time you are watching this video, perhaps you, but maybe not you, maybe you're killing it right now, but most people are failing at their New Year's resolutions. Nothing has shifted. The reason being is, the person we are is the same because the lens we view the world through is the exact same lens that we were viewing the world in 2017. See, we don't deal with the world around us. We deal with our lens of the world, our relationship to things. Think about it this way. If I was wearing a red pair of glasses, everything in the world would look red. We are all wearing our own version of these glasses. Which is why you might know some people that no matter what is happening around them, they will always find the negative in it. They'll always look at it in a way that this is why life is miserable and this is why bad things happen. Whereas others, no matter what happens, no matter how bad things get, they will find an opportunity in that struggle. They'll find an opportunity for transformation. And the only difference between the two is the lens these people are wearing. And the thing is, when we go from 2017 to 2018, the lens hasn't shifted. We are coming at it from that same lens. So how do you recognize what lens you are wearing? That's what brings me to this word that starts with M that I used in the shower. And this word is meta. Meta means about the thing itself. It's seeing something from a higher perspective instead of from within the thing itself. So for example, if I were to talk about learning, which is what you are doing right now, you're watching this video because you're learning something, meta learning would be learning how to learn. This is actually a very valuable skill that most of us are never taught in our lives. When you learn how to learn, you can learn better. You can take in knowledge better, and you can implement that knowledge better so you can transform your life. So meta is stepping above whatever the thing is and looking at it from a higher place. It's essentially self-awareness when we apply the word meta to ourselves. And as entrepreneur Gary Vaynerchuk, who's someone I really admire, he says, self-awareness is the most important attribute. And I could not agree with him more. Because self-awareness allows us to figure out what is driving us, who we are, what is it we want out of life. It helps us better understand our pain triggers, our pleasure triggers. Why do we do the things we do? What drives us? And when we understand that, then we can do something about it and actually implement changes in our lives. But most of us aren't practicing self-awareness. We live life just being in it. being on autopilot, as opposed to rising above it and looking at life from that higher level, as opposed to going meta. When you go meta, you can look at things from that higher level, including yourself. And only when you go meta can you understand what the lens is that you are viewing the world through. See, most of us aren't going meta, so we aren't even aware that we're viewing the world through a lens. Reality appears real to us. This thing is happening and that is very real. As opposed to understanding that, you know what, this is just a lens through which I'm viewing the world. Let me give you an example. When I was in Iraq, for the first month and a half of my deployment, I was miserable. I hated my life out there, hated everything about the missions, about the officers, about everything we had to do. But 2 months into the war, everything shifted. Suddenly, I found joy in the war. In fact, at the end of the war, at the end of my deployment, I wrote in my journal that I'm actually going to miss this place when I go home. So what shifted? The environment was the same. My 7th-month deployment was equally miserable 6 months into it that it was 1 month into it. The only thing that changed was my lens to that environment. I rose above myself to understand what's actually happening within me that I'm approaching this environment this way. I went meta, and by going meta, I was able to transform my relationship to the deployment, to my time in war. By going meta, I'm able to transform my life around here. Because this is how you accomplish your resolutions and your goals. You have to take on new habits. You have to take on new systems. If you want something you've never had before, you're going to have to be someone you've never been before. And in order to be someone you've never been before, you're going to have to shift your lens. Because your lens has brought you to where you are today. In order to evolve into something new, you need a new lens. Let me give you another example. See this picture here? This is a friend of mine that I lost in the war. And that survivor's guilt tore me up for a long time. But as I began practicing self-awareness exercises, I learned to become more present to that survivor's guilt and ultimately shift my relationship to it. I wore a new lens when I was looking at my own survivor's guilt. And up until very recently, I had this poster up on my wall that said, "This should have been you. Earn this life." See, my guilt became my ally. It helped me sober up. It helped me finish my book, Fearvana, and put something meaningful out there that's making an impact in the world. But this only got me so far. Just before the end of last year, I started realizing that I was not able to have fun. My guilt was driving me. It helped me stay focused and accomplish tasks, but it was keeping me from having fun in those tasks and really in every area of my life. And as a result, I changed the poster. Today, it says, "Honor his death, live this life." See, I came to realize that most of the things I was doing just became a chore to me. It was like I had to do this. Everything was, oh, okay, I have to do this. Even my runs, even my workouts were like, okay, I gotta go do this. My work was, I gotta go do this. And I wasn't having fun. As a result, my growth became stagnant. In order to achieve the next level of growth, in order to evolve into someone new, I had to shift my lens once again. So my guilt, it was valuable to me. It got me so far. But now I had to shift my relationship once again in order to create a new being, in order to achieve new results of my life. And so far, the year is going fantastic. I'm easily on track to run my 50-miler. It's going to happen very soon. I have zero doubt about it. This all began by going meta. So let's look at this concept of going meta in the context of your own New Year's resolutions. Now, one of the more common New Year's resolutions is related to getting healthier. So quitting drinking, quitting smoking, running more, going to the gym more, whatever it may be. Now, when you go meta, it will help you change your current habit patterns. It will help you change your behavior and also your lens to the world. Because behavior can create new belief systems just as new belief systems can create new behavior. They both feed off each other. They kind of work together. But going meta will allow you to shift both together. Now, in order to build a new self, you need new habits. Habits allow things to happen on autopilot. It allows you to create systems in your life so you consistently take new action. You take action and relate it to your goals, to the behavior, to the person that you want to become. But going meta will help you create those habits. It'll help you understand what are the triggers that are driving you to bad habits. What is the pleasure you are gaining out of doing those bad habits? Because everything we do, we're either doing to avoid pain or to gain pleasure. These are the two driving forces of all human behavior. The need to avoid pain or the desire to gain pleasure. Going meta will help you better understand your pain triggers, your pleasure triggers. What are the triggers that are driving you into certain behaviors? See, when I was struggling with alcohol for a long time, what helped me quit drinking and sober up was going meta. because I came to learn what are all the forces that were pushing me to drink alcohol. What were the triggers that were driving me to drink? And when I understood them, I could do something about them. I could shift my relationship to alcohol, create a new lens, and ultimately build a better self. Going meta will help you understand everything about yourself so you can create new habits. So I actually have this note on my phone that says, relentlessly think in the meta. I'm constantly looking at things from a higher level to understand what's happening in those things. Because when I understand patterns, I can ultimately create growth in every area of my life, because all growth is two things. It's find what's working and do more of it, and find the problem, fix the problem. All growth ultimately is just these two forces. Find the problem, fix the problem, find what's working and do more of it. But in order to find both those things, you gotta go meta so you can understand what the problems are and you can understand what's working. And when you figure that out, then you can create systems. Systems provide freedom. They provide structure so you are no longer a slave to your subconscious. You become free in those systems. When you go meta, you can create systems so you don't waste cognitive energy throughout your day. You just follow the systems. You don't have to think about what to do, how to do it, when to do it. You just follow a particular system. When you surrender to systems, you stop being a slave to your subconscious. See, our subconscious is what creates that lens. It's everything that has made us who we are today. And we operate most of our lives on autopilot. But when we create systems, we are no longer a slave to that autopilot. We are no longer a slave to our past self that has made us who we are today. We get to create systems in service of the future self that we want to step into. Going meta helped me create these systems. Let me give you another quick example. When I went to Iraq, when I skied across Greenland, when I climbed mountains in the Himalayas, I found a lot of freedom in these experiences. And I realized the freedom came from not having to think about what to do. In Iraq, or even life in the Marines in general, you don't have to think about what to do. There was a mission given to you and you go do it. In Greenland, we had a system every single day that we followed to accomplish the end result of getting to the other end of the ice cap. Same thing when I climbed mountains in the Himalayas. Anytime I was in these hostile environments, we built systems. There was freedom in not having to think about what to do. You just go do it. And of course, you adapt when things happen, when the environment gets a little too hostile, whether it be in Iraq or skiing across Greenland or whatever it may be. But we have clarity of purpose, clarity of missions. So we don't have to think. And there's so much freedom in that. This is why I struggled for a long time when I came back. Suddenly, this life was so much more complex, and I didn't know what to do with it. Now, I've gone meta, and I've developed systems in every area of my life. And this brings me back to showering. See this here, this list here? Now I have these systems for how I shower. There's 5 kinds of showers that I do. There's a 3x1 contrast shower, a 1x1 contrast shower, a cold shower, a fun music relaxing shower, and a white space creative thinking shower. So there's a system even to my showering. Now, I'm not saying you have to get that ridiculous. I know that's a little out there, but I have a very addictive personality. So anytime I find something I embrace, I go all out with it and I get kind of nuts with it. In fact, my business mentor who taught me a lot about creating systems even thought this was a little crazy. But I love it because now I have a system for showering too. I went meta and understood, okay, when I go into the shower, what's actually happening here? How can I find value in this? How can I use this moment as an opportunity for growth? So those contrast showers are an opportunity for recovery. And I did this even with my running. So I went meta and understood what's actually happening when I go running. And this is my running system. It says, be clear on the mileage, route, and kind of run. Prepare accordingly, champion activation trigger. Then when I run, I have this drop down. It says run and have fucking fun. As I said, by going meta, I realized I want to have more fun in my life. So I added this element into my system for running. And then be willing to adapt. Deactivation trigger, recovery drink, and even my stretching routine has a drop down. So I don't have to think about what to do. After a long run, like 26 miles up a big hill, my brain's kind of dead. I don't want to have to think about what to do. I just want to follow a system. So I created a system by going meta about understanding my running routine. And then finally, I have log and celebrate. So I log my mileage, I log the fun, log the difficulty, log any other notes, and I acknowledge myself for my effort and my result. So I've created a system for even my running routine. And I can go into a lot more depth about this because I actually have systems for everything using this app. These systems for how I run my business, for how I do a work shift, for my morning routine, for my night routine, systems for, of course, how I shower. And then I have systems for daily themes, how I approach every day. Everything becomes a system so I don't have to think about it and I just do it. I become like a productive machine. You create systems by going meta. So first you have to think, you become self-aware to understand what's happening in your world, and then you turn it into a system so you stop thinking and success becomes automated. Going meta is how you automate success. So let's turn this into an action step now so you can actually use what I've just shared with you and transform your life. So if your 2018 resolutions have fallen off track already, it's okay. We can get back on track by going meta. Now going meta is a muscle. Like any other muscle, you gotta build it. And this action step is about building the meta muscle, because the meta muscle has to be built in order to question those deeply ingrained and deeply held belief systems about the world, about things, about other people, and even about ourselves. It's very hard to do that. That's much harder than going meta about some of the little things like showering or a running routine, right? So we gotta build that muscle. But once you do, the value is that you can start questioning yourself. One of the most valuable things you can do in your life is constantly ask yourself, how could I be wrong about this? That's how I was able to shift my relationship to my survivor's guilt, by being willing to be wrong. And now I'm constantly looking at, what area of life am I wrong in? What area of my life is not working, so I can question it and then go meta and then create a new self, create new systems, and evolve into someone else. So we gotta build that muscle, and we're gonna start small. So what I want you to do now is pick an area of your life that you consistently follow a routine in. Let's say you're really good about exercising. That's something that you already have a routine. Or let's say it's just something like going to work every day and then coming back. You already have a routine in there. Maybe it's spending time with the family. Pick one area of your life where you already have a routine, and I want you to go meta about that area. I want you to start looking at the area the next time you do it. So right after you watch this video, if it's exercise, start thinking about it. If it's something else, if it's going to work the next day, whatever it may be, when you go, don't just go on autopilot. Don't just get in your car, drive to work, whatever. Don't do it on autopilot. Go meta and start processing, what am I actually doing? And then what I want you to do is turn it into a checklist. So this one area that you already have a consistent, systematized routine that right now you might just be following on autopilot without thinking about, what I want you to do is turn it into a checklist. This will start helping you build a meta muscle. And as you start turning every area of your life into a checklist, it will help you conserve your energy. Just like physical energy dies down, so does mental energy. So when you turn things into a checklist, you can save your energy for when you need it most. For those tough things. Like for me, it'd be running up a giant hill or doing some really, really hard work. Writing to me was brutal. A huge struggle. So I was able to conserve energy now when I write, when I work, when I run up hills, by creating everything into a system. So actually, if you ask me what my running routine is, or what my stretching routine is, or what my shower routine is, I wouldn't be able to tell you unless I look at my list. And I don't want to tell you unless I look at my list. There's a reason why it's in a list, because I don't want to have to waste energy memorizing all that. It's just a list that I just follow without thinking. So for now, here's all I want you to do. Find an area that you already have a routine in. You're already fairly consistent in how you go about that area. Go meta as you approach that area the next time you do it. So don't just do it on autopilot. Go meta and think about it. Become self-aware about what's happening as you go about this task. And then turn it into a checklist. And finally, the next time you do that thing again, look at your checklist. Does the checklist cover everything? Is it missing anything? Then tweak and iterate your checklist accordingly. Now here's a quick rule on checklists. Don't have more than 9 things on a checklist. So if it requires more than 9 things, create a sub-checklist under one, which is why you saw my stretching routine became a sub-checklist. There's a great book called The Checklist Manifesto that you can read it. It talks a lot about how to create checklists effectively. But this is something I've learned, is not to have more than 9 things on a checklist. So anytime there's more than 9, I create a sub-checklist. Because I don't want my checklist to be overwhelming. I want them to be fairly simple to follow, that I look at and it's not just getting crazy that I'm losing my mind about it. I just follow it, and then if I need to, I open up a sub-checklist and then follow that routine as well. So for now, that's all I want you to do. And just start thinking about this concept of going meta. As I have that note on my phone, relentlessly think in the meta. Because as you go meta about everything, right now you're just applying it to something that's already a routine. You're just becoming more conscious of it, of turning it into a system. But as you practice this habit, as you build this meta muscle, you'll be able to turn things into systems that you are not doing consistently yet. And then when you do them, you'll create new habits. In a later video, I'm going to go into a lot more detail about habits and how to build them. But for now, just do this one action step and start thinking about going meta. And if you like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm going to be sharing a lot more about how to enhance your life and create the life that you love so you can live every day with more joy, with more purpose, with more meaning. And join me on fearofana.com. We're going to be talking a lot more about stuff like this so we can live the life of our dreams. And not only will 2000 be a great year, But 2019 and 20 will only become better and better and better moving forward, and we can keep evolving as a new being, spiritually, mentally, physically, financially, in every way. So we can create more, have more, be more, and give more. I'll see you next time.